we're tracking this story out of Ontario as well, where car theft is a big problem and it's a growing problem. It also leads to things like carjackings as well. Cars are stolen from Ontario. They often end up at the Port of Montreal, which has got a big problem with car theft as well. Those cars often end up in places on the other side of the planet, Africa, Asia, South America, you name it. Some cases they're driving around with Ontario plates. So provincial government says enough is enough. They're now cracking down on car thieves. Number one, the first offense, if you're found stealing a car, your license will be suspended for 10 years. If you do it a second time, 15 years. If you do it a third time, that's it. Your license is taken away for life. Let's bring in our public safety analyst, Chris Lewis, who is standing by. He himself with a long time experience in law enforcement. He was at one point the commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police. Hey, Chris, good to see you.
You too, Todd.
All right. Is this going to work?
Well, I'm glad the Ontario government's trying to do what they can at the provincial level. Besides, they provided funding and bodies for provincial auto theft units, et cetera, et cetera. From a legislative perspective, no Ontario or provincial law is going to make a big difference. A suspended driver's license is maybe going to deter the odd 16-year-old from stealing a car, but it's not going to affect organized crime, career criminals that are stealing cars and shipping them overseas for money. It's just, they're already breaking criminal laws and could go to jail for 10 years for just one simple auto theft. So what's the suspended license really going to do?
Yeah, you raise a great point. Some people, the perception of the public, Chris, on their part, may be that, these are independent operators. You said 16-year-old, stealing a car to go for a joyride. There is some of that, but largely a lot of this stuff very well organized, tied to crime networks, tied to organized crime, in some cases international criminal rings and networks, which is why the cars end up, in places like Africa and Asia.
Yeah, it's huge money, Todd. And I mean, the thieves that do it are often just career criminals on a local level that do it on behalf of organized crime groups. They're breaking the law. They're fleeing from the police, which we've seen on many occasions. Are they really worried about their licenses are going to be suspended where they're already tempting fate in terms of going to prison? I don't think so. I mean, it's something. Will it deter the odd person? Maybe. But really, the bang for the buck has to be at the federal level. It has to be in relation to penalties and lack of bail provisions and whatnot to try and deter this sort of thing, as opposed to a provincial law, which might get you a ticket at some point.
Yeah, the other problem, Chris, and I know you had to deal with this, in your time, although it's much worse now, the Port of Montreal and how much of a problem that is in terms of cars being smuggled out of Canada.
It's huge, and the RCMP and the Canadian Border Service Agency need to be key players in that, and they try their best with the resources they have. That's where the feds need to come in and really supply them with the resources, the tools. Any gaps in laws need to be filled in a way that allows them to search containers. They've had some recent success. The OPP and the SQ and others had a huge bust there, and I'm sure they learned a lot, and that will continue. But at the same time, that's where legislation needs to be perfect and sound and within the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so that police will properly be able to exercise those authorities in a way to deter crime, put people in jail, not just take away the driver's license.
Obviously, government has to be seen to be doing something too, Chris, and that's part of this as well.
For sure, and good for the Ontario government. I mean, that's all they can do. I mean, I kind of liken this, Todd, to there was talk about a provincial ban on firearms, which would amount to maybe getting a $500 fine if you get caught with a firearm. Well, bad guys don't care about going to prison if they get caught with a firearm. They still have firearms. So that doesn't, have them go out and find a job somewhere and stop their life of crime. So how is a provincial law going to change that? But they're trying their best at the provincial level.
Chris, always good to see you. Appreciate you taking time for CTV on this one today.
Anytime, Todd. Thank you.